On our silver wedding anniversary, my husband Mark gave me divorce papers instead of a gift. 25 years is long enough, he announced in front of all our guests at the Fairmont Copley Plaza. I want someone young now, and you need to be out of the Beacon Hill house by tomorrow. He seemed to have forgotten that my parents gifted me that brownstone. His mother, Margaret Bishop, just smiled silently. I rose, took the microphone, and said something that left him speechless. That night, Eleanor Hayes woke up to whispers from behind the heavy oak door of their master bedroom. Her husband, Mark Bishop, was on the phone with his mother again. It was 3 a.m., and his voice sounded strangely excited. Eleanor lay still in the dark, the faint smell of old polish and lemon oil from the antique furniture filling the room. She caught snippets of the conversation. "We have to do this right, Mom," Mark's voice insisted. "She won't suspect a thing." "Of course not, son," Margaret replied, her voice tinny through the speaker. Eleanor tensed. What were they plotting in secret? And why now, just a few weeks before their milestone anniversary? The old-growth hardwood floor, original to the 1890s brownstone, creaked as Mark returned to the room. Eleanor quickly shut her eyes, pretending to be asleep. He slipped into bed carefully, but she could feel his body was stiff, restless. The next morning, everything felt odd. Mark was unnaturally affectionate. "Eleanor, my love," he said, kissing her cheek. He smelled of expensive cologne, a new scent she didn't recognize. "How about we choose the restaurant for our anniversary today? I want everything to be perfect. Perfect." Eleanor raised an eyebrow. In 25 years of marriage, Mark had never been so enthusiastic about a family celebration. She always organized everything, the holidays at their Beacon Hill home, the summer trips to the Cape, and he usually just found fault. "Fine," she replied carefully, watching him rush off to work, his Brooks Brothers suit perfectly pressed. His cell phone was on the nightstand. The screen lit up with a notification. Eleanor couldn't help but look. It was a calendar reminder. "Call C at 11 a.m. "Who's C you have in your contacts?" she asked casually, watering the window plants overlooking the cobblestone street. Mark spun around abruptly. For a second, Eleanor saw panic flash in his eyes, but he quickly calmed himself. "Ah, Collins, a colleague from the New York office, just consulting him on a work issue." A lie. Eleanor knew her husband like the back of her hand. When he lied, his left eye always twitched, just as it was doing now. "I see," she replied with a smile, but deep inside, her chest tightened. Once he left, Eleanor stood by the window, gazing at the gray October sky over Boston. 25 years. A quarter century. They met at Boston College. She was a brilliant accounting student. He was an up-and-coming finance manager. They married for love, dreaming of children and a big family. But children never came. Doctors found nothing wrong, but the miracle never happened. Mark took it hard, especially when his mother, Margaret, started making passive-aggressive comments about grandchildren. In time, they accepted being childless and focused on the positives. But something vital had shifted between them. A knock on the door pulled her from her thoughts. Standing there was Margaret Bishop, her mother-in-law, with her usual frigid smile. "Eleanor, dear," she said, entering the brownstone without waiting for an invitation. "How are you? Are you preparing for the party?" Margaret always treated Eleanor with exaggerated courtesy, but maintained a great distance. In 25 years, she never once called Eleanor her daughter. "Slowly but surely," Eleanor replied, leading her to the formal living room. "Mark wants to celebrate at a restaurant." "Very good," Margaret responded brightly, a respectable venue. Doing everything at home just doesn't show how important the date is. She began looking around the living room, as if evaluating it. Eleanor knew that look. It always made her feel, without a single word being spoken, that Margaret's sprawling home in Chestnut Hill was larger and better decorated. "By the way, Eleanor, dear," Margaret said, settling into an armchair. "I've been thinking about the future. Mark is not so young anymore. He's 53. And, well, we don't have grandchildren. Don't you think it would be a good idea to write a will?" Eleanor felt a chill. "What grandchildren, Margaret?" "We don't have children." "Well, for my nephews," she said dismissively. "I have 2 nephews, good boys. If we don't, the government will take everything." Eleanor slowly placed her teacup on the table. "And where do you keep the deed to the house?" Margaret suddenly asked, as if it were a casual afterthought. "I'm just thinking about the boy's future." That was it. Eleanor understood the subtext. "They're in the safe," she replied dryly. "But why do you ask?" "Oh, just in case. You never know what might happen. It's good to know where things are." When Margaret finally left, Eleanor sat in silence, piecing things together. The late-night call, Mark's strange burst of affection, and now, Margaret's pointed questions about the house title. Bit by bit, the puzzle was forming, and she did not like the picture. She went to Mark's computer. He had never changed the password before. He always used a simple key, their meeting date. But it didn't work this time. Her heart raced. In 25 years, he had never kept secrets from her. She tried his birthday. Nothing. She tried his mother's. Nope. Then it occurred to her to try their wedding date, but in reverse. It worked. The browser history opened, and what she saw gave her a knot in her stomach. How to divorce when shared assets exist, Massachusetts. Spousal rights in property division. Legal advice for separation, Boston. He had searched all of this over the past 2 weeks. With trembling fingers, she scrolled. How to keep the brownstone in a divorce. Legal tricks for dividing assets. Suddenly, her phone rang. It was her best friend, Jessica Jess Miller. "Elle, you won't believe what I saw. Your Mark. I saw him at a jeweler's on Newbury Street, one of the really expensive ones. He was with a young woman. They were looking at diamond rings. She was clinging to him, hugging him." "What did she look like?" Eleanor interrupted softly. "About 30, blonde, very put together, wearing a super expensive coat. Pretty, but she looked superficial. And they were so openly affectionate. Are you okay, Elle?" "Yes," Eleanor lied. "Everything's fine." But nothing was fine. That evening, Mark returned with a bouquet of roses. "For my one and only true love," he said confidently, kissing her lips. One and only. How ironic, Eleanor thought. She looked him straight in the eye. "We need to talk seriously about our future." Mark tensed. It was subtle, but she saw it. "Talk about what?" he asked, turning on the TV, pretending to be absorbed in the programming. "Everything's fine, right? The anniversary is in 1 week. All our friends will be there. Let's not spoil the mood with serious topics. We'll talk after the party, okay?" After the party. That meant something big was planned for the party itself. Eleanor nodded, feigning acceptance, but felt an icy coldness within. After 25 years, she knew her husband well. He was preparing something, calmly and coldly, involving his mother, and surely a lawyer. What Mark didn't know was that Eleanor had an ace up her sleeve, something that could unravel all his plans. And for now, she wasn't going to tell him a thing. The next day, Eleanor woke up with a knot in her stomach. Mark left early, without breakfast. "I have a meeting," he said. "A meeting?" Eleanor thought bitterly. She knew exactly who that meeting was with. At 11 a.m., the landline rang. Mark had forgotten his cell phone, leaving it face down in the kitchen. Eleanor didn't answer, but the answering machine recorded the message. "Mark? It's Mom. I spoke to Mr. Hayes. Everything can be arranged. The important thing is that she doesn't suspect anything until the very last moment. Call me when you're free. Hayes, the supposed Collins, from New York." Now it all made sense. Eleanor felt the ground give way beneath her. 25 years. Beside a man who was now planning his betrayal like office paperwork. She approached Mark's phone. It required a 6-digit code. She tried the date they met. Nope. She tried Margaret's birthday. Nothing. Then she remembered the blonde from Newbury Street. Her intuition told her to try March 8th, International Women's Day. It worked. The lover's birthday. The texts confirmed everything. "Chloe, my love, a little more patience. After the anniversary, everything will be resolved. The brownstone will be ours. Mark, you said we'd be living together by New Year's. I'm tired of hiding. My love, everything is going according to plan. Mom has already taken care of things. Eleanor suspects nothing. Hayes says if we play this right, she'll only get half. I'll keep the house." Eleanor slumped into a chair, her hands shaking. They were planning her life as if she were a piece of second-hand property. Mark, his mother, the lawyer Hayes, the mistress Chloe, all tangled in a trap where she was the prey, and the worst was yet to come. "Hey, Mom, are you sure the brownstone title is in both our names? Maybe we got lucky and it's just mine?" "Son, I saw the copies when you bought it. Both names are on it. But Hayes says there are ways. The important thing is she signs the waiver. And if she won't sign, she will sign. After what we're going to do to her at the party, she won't have any other option." What did they plan to do to her? Humiliate her in front of everyone? Accuse her of something? Without wasting time, she copied all the important messages to her own phone and put Mark's phone back where she found it. She needed a plan. She needed help. She called Jessica Miller, her college friend, now a top family attorney in Boston. "Eleanor?" Jess said. "Long time no talk. How are you?" "Can we meet today?" Eleanor asked, trying to sound calm. "I need a consultation." "Sure, I'm free at 6. Come to the office." Jess's office was downtown in a modern high-rise. She greeted Eleanor with a hug, but immediately noticed the tension. "Sit down. Tell me everything." Eleanor took a deep breath. "Let's just say, an acquaintance of mine is having trouble with her husband. He wants a divorce but is hiding it, and it seems he's setting a trap." Jess looked at her intently. "You sure this is a hypothetical acquaintance, Elle?" Eleanor was silent for a few seconds, then told her everything. The late-night calls, the phone messages, Chloe, her mother-in-law's scheming. Jess listened, occasionally asking for clarification. "I understand," she said finally. "This is serious, but you're not lost. The good news is you reacted in time. Tell me about the house. When did you buy it? Whose name is on the title?" "We put both names on it in 2005. Equal shares." "Are you formally employed?" "Yes, I'm the controller at Alliance Development Group. I've been there for 15 years. "Jess, they can't do anything to me if I keep a clear head, right? In a divorce, everyone receives what is legally theirs. No one can force you to waive your share. But it's clear they are planning something dirty. They want to put you in a weak emotional position. A scandal, an accusation, something to break you. You need to be ready." "How do I prepare?" "Gather evidence. Take photos of the messages. Record conversations if you can. Move some of the money from the joint account into an account only in your name. Most importantly, don't let them know that you know." Eleanor nodded. For the first time in days, she felt something close to relief. Thanks, Jess. How much do I owe you? Jess smiled. Nothing, girl. Friends don't charge. Just keep me in the loop. And remember, no matter what happens, you are not alone. This seems like a good place to pause and reflect. What Mark is doing is terrible, isn't it? But stories like this, where someone is pushed to their limit, often have the most satisfying endings. If you enjoy these kinds of dramatic, true-to-life stories, I'd like to invite you to follow our channel, Aunt Millie's Tales. We share new stories every week. Please take a second to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the notification bell. And we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What would you do in Eleanor's situation? Thank you so much for your support. Now, back to Eleanor's plan. Eleanor returned home, determined to act. But what she found upon arrival confirmed the war had already begun. Mark was by the entrance, checking himself in the mirror. "You look kind of run down today, huh?" He blurted out without looking at her directly. "Forgive me, but yes, Elle. You've let yourself go a bit lately. Look, turning 50 isn't the end of the world, but you need to take care of yourself. Go to the gym, see the dermatologist. Get something done. I saw Candace's daughter today. She's 30 but looks 25. Very polished. And you? Well, you understand?" He was comparing her to younger women, setting the stage to justify his betrayal. "I have a meeting tomorrow," he announced suddenly. "It's Saturday, but it will take all day." Another date with Chloe. "That's fine," Eleanor replied calmly. "And Sunday, I'm going with Mom. I'm going to set up her new smart TV, spending time with the trader's family." That night, when Mark was in the shower, Eleanor reviewed their joint bank account online. In the last month, $30,000 had been withdrawn in several transactions. Gifts for Chloe, payments to the lawyer, Hayes, and who knows what else. All with their shared money. Eleanor let out a nervous, brittle laugh. They were using her own money to plan her downfall. But she had an ace up her sleeve. Something they didn't know. A week prior, a letter had arrived from a notary. Her Aunt Clara, her father's older sister in Boston, had passed away. She had no children or spouse. She left her entire estate to Eleanor, her only niece. This included a trust fund valued at over $1 million and a stunning shingled beach house in Nantucket. Total value, over $3 million. Eleanor hadn't told anyone. She wanted to surprise Mark on their anniversary. But now, that money and property were her salvation. On Monday, Eleanor woke up with a clear plan. First, she visited a notary, but not the one handling her aunt's case. She went to see Mr. Donovan, the real estate lawyer who had helped them purchase the brownstone years ago. "Eleanor Hayes, how many years, and how is Mark Bishop doing?" Mr. Donovan, an older gentleman, greeted her with a smile. "Mr. Donovan, I need your help," she said, entering his office. "But it has to be strictly confidential." The lawyer's face grew serious. "Sit down. I'm listening." "Do you remember our brownstone on Beacon Street? You did the title work in 2005. "Of course. A very good unit. Do you recall who purchased it first? I mean, where did the money come from?" Mr. Donovan frowned, opened an old file, and searched for a moment. "Here it is. It was an unusual case. The money came directly from your parents' account, and in the deed of gift, you are listed as the sole recipient. Mark was added 2 months later as your husband." Eleanor felt a surge of warmth in her chest. "So, it's formally a premarital asset?" "Formally, yes. Your parents gifted it to you before Mark's name appeared on the documents. In case of divorce, that can make all the difference. He could only claim something if he proves he invested in major renovations." Eleanor smiled faintly. Mark never spent a dime on the house. I did everything myself. Could you give me a confirming document? Of course. Come back tomorrow afternoon. It will be ready. Leaving the office, Eleanor felt different. After so many days, she finally felt strong, protected. But what awaited her at home left her breathless. A courier delivered a thick envelope, the final papers for Aunt Clara's inheritance, a trust fund with $1,070,000, and the luxury beach house in Nantucket. She was now a wealthy, independent, free woman, but Mark shouldn't know. Not yet. Her phone rang. It was Mark, his voice overly cheerful. Eleanor, my love, I was thinking, what if we really celebrate our anniversary? Colleagues, friends, everyone. Why such a big deal, Mark? Why? It's 25 years, a silver anniversary. I want everyone to see what a perfect family we have. I already reserved the grand ballroom at the Fairmont Copley Plaza for 100 people. 100 people. For her public humiliation. Isn't that expensive, Mark? We're supposed to be saving. Don't worry about it, he interrupted. The money is there. The important thing is the impression. We'll invite my boss, yours. Everyone needs to see how happy we are. What a cynical lie. Fine, Eleanor said calmly. Whatever you say. Perfect. I have a meeting with some partners. We'll talk tonight. Partners. Eleanor knew what that meant. In the afternoon, Margaret arrived with a gift. Eleanor, dear, she said in a sugary voice, handing her an envelope. This is from me to you. It was a consultation with an excellent family lawyer. Just in case. You never know. Eleanor opened the envelope. A business card. Hayes and Associates. Divorce and Property Law. With a note. Free consultation anytime. The audacity. They were giving her a consultation with the very lawyer who was planning her betrayal. Thank you, Eleanor said dryly. Very thoughtful. I worry about you, daughter. Daughter. For the first time in 25 years, her mother-in-law called her that, just before stabbing her in the back. Mark came home late that night, cheerful and smelling of expensive perfume. He hugged Eleanor. Everything is ready. Restaurant, menu, guests. It'll be unforgettable. Eleanor looked at him coldly. He was right. It was going to be unforgettable. Just not the way he imagined. Mark, what cologne are you wearing? That's not yours. He hesitated. I got on the elevator with the neighbor. She wears a very strong perfume, and it clung to my jacket. One lie after another. By the way, he said, walking toward the window. At the anniversary, I'm going to give a special speech about our life and our future plans. What plans? You'll see. It's a surprise. A surprise. Eleanor felt a chill. She couldn't sleep that night. Around 2 a.m., she heard a murmur. Mark was on the phone in the hallway. She got up quietly and pressed her ear to the bedroom door. Mom, everything is perfect. The restaurant is booked. Guests are confirmed. After the toast, it will all just happen. Are you sure she doesn't suspect anything? How would she suspect? She's naive. She's always trusted me, and she still does. And if she doesn't want to sign the papers, she will sign. After what I tell her in front of everyone, she'll have no other option. Everyone will see what she's really like. You know, Mark, don't you think it would be better to do it privately, at home, without a scene? No, Mom. It has to be in front of everyone. That way, she won't be able to make a scene or demand explanations. She'll go straight home, and Hayes will be waiting for her there with the papers. Quick, clean, and no drama. And Chloe already knows? Of course. She's even coming to the anniversary. I want her to meet my colleagues. I'm going to introduce her as my new assistant. You're cruel. It's not cruelty, Mom. It's being practical. 25 years was enough. I deserve to be happy too, even if it's at her expense. Eleanor went back to bed, so Chloe was going to be at the party too. She was going to witness the humiliation of her rival and then take her place in the home. That's what they thought. In the morning, Eleanor went to the bank. She opened a personal account and transferred half of the money from the joint savings. If Mark wanted to continue spending on his mistress, he would do it with his half. Then she went to the lawyer for the document confirming that the brownstone was hers from before the marriage. Next, she went to work. "Mr. Budrow," she said to her boss, entering his office. "Can I speak with you?" "Of course, Eleanor. Is everything all right?" "Everything is fine for now. I just wanted to warn you that I will soon be entering a difficult personal phase." "Divorce?" he asked, frowning. "Seriously? I thought you two were solid. You even invited me to your anniversary. That's exactly why I want to warn you. If things go wrong, I hope I can count on your support. My work won't be affected. You are the best controller we've had in 15 years, Eleanor. Whatever happens, your job is safe." That night, while Mark was at another meeting, Eleanor took out the inheritance documents. She needed a clear, well-thought-out plan. The Nantucket house was empty. Aunt Clara had rented it out, but the contract had ended a month ago. Eleanor could move there after the divorce. With the money in the trust, she had financial independence for years. And most importantly, the document proving the Boston brownstone was hers. Mark would never see that coming. Tomorrow was the anniversary. He thought he would deliver the final blow, but he was the one about to be blindsided. Thursday morning, she went to finalize the inheritance. The lawyer reviewed the documents. "Everything in order, Mrs. Hayes. Your aunt was a very prudent woman. The trust fund will be unlocked in 1 week, and regarding the Nantucket house, ownership passes to your name immediately. You can dispose of it as you wish." Eleanor carefully put the documents in her bag. She now owned 2 properties, over $1 million in cash, and complete freedom. That same day, she went to check on the anniversary party arrangements at the Fairmont Copley Plaza. And right by the entrance, a young blonde woman in an expensive coat was talking on the phone. "Mark, my love, it's incredible," Chloe was saying in a sickly sweet voice. "The ballroom is huge. The decor is divine. You promised we'd live in a huge brownstone soon, and I can already imagine hosting parties there." It was Chloe, her husband's mistress. She was only a few feet away. Eleanor stood still, watching her. She was pretty, about 30, great figure, well-kept hair, perfect nails. But her eyes were empty, cold, and calculating. "Of course, I understand. Tomorrow will be difficult," Chloe continued. "But you said after your speech she'd understand everything. And I'll be there as your new assistant. Romantic, right? Publicly humiliating your wife is romantic." Eleanor walked closer. "Excuse me, do you know where the manager is?" Chloe turned, looked Eleanor up and down with disdain. "No idea," she replied coldly. "I don't work here." She returned to her phone. "Mark, there's some lady asking me questions here. Okay, see you tonight. I love you." Some lady? Eleanor smiled to herself. Tomorrow, this lady would deliver a big surprise. The restaurant manager, a kindly woman, received Eleanor with a smile. "You're here about tomorrow's anniversary. Mr. Bishop already paid for everything. Ballroom for 100 people, banquet, live music. And how much did all that cost? $45,000. Your husband requested the best of the best, $45,000, to humiliate her in public." Eleanor nodded. "I see. Can I see the ballroom?" The room was luxurious. High ceilings, crystal chandeliers, immaculate white tablecloths, enormous mirrors on the walls. All the guests would have a perfect view of the spectacle. "Where will the microphone for the toasts be?" Eleanor asked. "Right here, in the center," the manager said. Mr. Bishop insisted that everyone hear him. Of course. So no one misses the humiliation. At home, Mark was waiting, nervous, pacing with a paper in his hand. "Ah, Eleanor," he said, quickly putting the paper away. "Where were you?" "At the restaurant, checking everything. What did you think of it?" "Impressive. $45,000 for one night." "Seriously, Mark, don't you think that's too much? We have other plans, right?" "Don't worry about it," he scoffed. "The money is there. The important thing is to make a good impression on the guests. Or on the mistress." That night, Margaret arrived, completely excited. "Mark, son, are you ready? Did you rehearse your speech?" "Of course, Mom. Everything will be perfect, don't worry." She patted his shoulder. "Your speech will be a success. Everyone will see that you made the right decision." "The right decision." Eleanor watched them from the kitchen, the rage building inside. "Mom, what if she makes a scene?" Mark asked. "She won't," Margaret replied confidently. "With so many people, she'll hold it together. She's an educated woman. They'll settle things at home. And Hayes? Is he ready?" "Yes, the papers are done. All she needs to do is sign. After your speech, she'll have no choice." Eleanor quietly went to the bedroom and took her own papers from the drawer. She had everything ready. She put all the documents into a small folder. The paper stating the brownstone was hers from before the marriage, the inheritance documents, and the statement for her new bank account. Tomorrow, those documents would change everything. Later that night, when Margaret had left, Mark locked himself in his study. Eleanor heard him rehearsing his speech, murmuring words to himself. She approached the door and listened intently. "Dear friends, today is a special day. 25 years ago, I made a decision that seemed right. But life moves on, people change, and sometimes you have to have the courage to admit your mistakes." Mistakes? 25 years of marriage was his mistake. I thank Eleanor for these years, but honesty demands I speak the truth. We are different people, with different values, with different plans for the future, and I have made a decision. The rest was muffled, but the meaning was clear. In the morning, Mark woke up in a good mood. "Eleanor," he said, adjusting his tie knot in front of the mirror, "today is a great day." "Yes, our anniversary." "Not just that," he said, smiling strangely. "Tomorrow, your life is going to change, and so is mine. Completely. You'll see. You're going to be surprised." "Surprised? Mark, can I ask you a question?" "Sure, what is it?" "Did you ever really love me? Truly?" He froze, tie in hand. "What a weird question. Why are you asking that on such an important day?" "Just curious." "Of course I loved you," he said without looking at her. "And I still love you, in my own way." In his own way, like someone who cares for an old piece of furniture that has served its purpose. "I understand," Eleanor said quietly. By the evening, he was visibly anxious. "Are you ready, Eleanor?" She stood before the mirror in a new, elegant dark blue dress, bought especially for this day. "Ready? Then let's go. It's time for the truth to be known." "The truth?" Eleanor grabbed her purse where the documents rested. "Yes, it's time for everyone to know the truth. They didn't speak on the drive." Mark was nervous, drumming his fingers on the steering wheel. Eleanor watched the city lights through the window. "Eleanor," Mark said when they arrived at the hotel, No matter what happens today, I want you to know that. I wish you the best. The best? What a cruel mockery. Thank you, Mark, she replied with a serene smile. And I wish you receive exactly what you deserve. The ballroom at the Fairmont Copley Plaza sparkled. 100 guests were seated at round tables. At the head table sat the hosts. Eleanor smiled and accepted congratulations, but inside, she was tense. The blow was coming. "Eleanor, you look stunning," said Marina, a co-worker. 25 years together. How romantic. "Yes," Eleanor said, looking around. "Very unexpected. All of it." In one corner of the room stood Chloe, Mark's mistress. She had been introduced as his new marketing assistant, young, pretty, in a very expensive dress. She chatted calmly with some colleagues. At a small table in the back, a man in his 50s in a dark suit sat very seriously. Eleanor recognized his picture. Mr. Hayes, the lawyer. "Dear guests." The voice of the master of ceremony sounded over the microphone. "May I ask for your attention?" Mark Bishop would like to say a few words in honor of his wife. A silence fell. Everyone turned toward the main table. Mark stood up, took the microphone, and smiled broadly. "Friends, thank you for being here. 25 years, it's a quarter century alongside one person." The guests nodded, raising their glasses. "I've thought a lot about our life together," Mark continued. "About what united us, what made us happy, and what didn't so much." Eleanor tensed. "It's starting," she thought. "And I realized something very important. People change. What seems right when you're young can eventually turn out to be a mistake." The ballroom grew quieter. People exchanged confused glances. 25 years ago, I chose the woman who would be my life partner, guided by youthful emotions. But life taught me to see things more clearly. "Mark," Eleanor murmured, "what are you talking about?" "The truth, dear. It's time to stop lying to ourselves." He turned to the guests, his voice harder, firmer. "Dear friends, I want to be honest with you. And with myself. For 25 years, I endured a life with a woman who is not right for me. A gray, boring woman who doesn't know how to be the partner of a successful man." The ballroom erupted in surprised murmurs. "Mark, are you crazy?" someone yelled. "Quite the opposite," he said calmly. "I'm finally thinking clearly. Eleanor needs to understand this. Our marriage is over. I'm filing for divorce." The room was stunned. His mother, Margaret, smiled triumphantly. "Furthermore," Mark continued, feeling emboldened, "I want a fair division of assets. Eleanor must leave the brownstone. It's time for a new life. New relationships." He looked pointedly at Chloe, the blonde, who stood in the back, barely concealing a victorious smirk. "Is this a joke?" his boss demanded. "More than ever," he replied coldly. "I have the right to be happy. Eleanor will receive what the law dictates, and we will separate on good terms." "And that young girl is your new conquest?" one of Eleanor's friends shouted, pointing at Chloe. "Chloe is a wonderful woman. She understands what I need," Mark said openly. "Unlike other people." That was enough. Eleanor slowly rose and gently took the microphone from her stunned husband. "Thank you, Mark," she said in a quiet, almost sweet voice. "Very honest." The room fell silent. Everyone expected tears. "You know, dear friends," Eleanor continued, "Mark is right about one thing. Enough of the lies. And I want to speak the truth, too." Mark frowned. This was not in his script. "The truth is, I knew about this whole charade for 3 weeks. I knew about Chloe, about the lawyer, Mr. Hayes, who's right over there in the corner, and about your plans to make me waive my rights to the brownstone." Mr. Hayes turned pale and tried to slip out unnoticed, but annoyed guests blocked his path. "Eleanor, what are you talking about?" Mark tried to interrupt. "That your plan fell apart, darling." "You see," she said, pulling a folder from her purse, "you made a tiny mistake. Our brownstone on Beacon Street is not a shared asset. It was a gift from my parents in my name before the marriage. I have the document from the real estate lawyer." Mark took a step back. That can't be." "And what's more," Eleanor continued, "3 weeks ago, I received an inheritance from my Aunt Clara, a trust fund with over $1 million, and a luxury beach house in Nantucket." The silence in the room was absolute. "So, Mark, what property division are you talking about?" "You'll get half of the cabin and half of your car. Everything else is mine." Chloe, against the wall, turned paper white. "And now, the fun part," Eleanor said with a smile. "Do you know how much your successful man spent on this little play to publicly humiliate his wife? $45,000 of our joint savings." The guests began to murmur in outrage. "But I'm not spiteful," Eleanor continued. "Mark, you are free. Take your wonderful woman, as you called her, and live wherever you like. Just not in my brownstone." "Wait," Mark whispered. "We can talk about this." "There's nothing to talk about. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow. Mr. Hayes can leave. I don't need him anymore." She then turned to the guests. "Dear friends, I apologize for ruining your evening. But sometimes the truth is more important than appearances. Thank you for coming. Now you know who is who." Eleanor placed the microphone on the table and walked toward the exit. Behind her, a scandal erupted. "Mark, you are a complete scoundrel!" a woman yelled. "How could you do that to your wife?" Chloe tried to leave discreetly, but a furious group of guests blocked her path. "And what about you, homewrecker?" Margaret went from table to table, trying to explain, but no one listened. Meanwhile, Eleanor walked out of the restaurant and breathed the cool night air. Freedom. She paused at the door and looked back. Through the large windows, she could see the house of cards Mark had built collapsing. He was in the middle of the ballroom, pale, confused. Mr. Budrow, the CEO, approached him. "Mark Bishop, I am deeply disappointed. After this show, we will have to review your position in the company." "But Mr. Budrow, you don't understand," Mark stammered. "Eleanor twisted everything." "Twisted?" interjected Marina. "We all heard what you said. Enduring a colorless woman? Aren't you ashamed?" In another corner, Chloe, realizing her dream of living in a luxury brownstone was over, pushed her way through the angry guests. "Mark!" She grabbed his sleeve. "What's going on?" "You promised me a house. Where's the money?" "Shh," Mark whispered, looking around. "Not here." "Why not here?" Chloe yelled, growing hysterical. "I've been waiting for 3 months. You said we'd live like kings. And now what?" Guests turned, curious, some already recording on their cell phones. "Stop it, Chloe," Mark pleaded, but she let out a bitter laugh. "Talk about what?" "You don't have a house or money. You fooled me." She turned to the guests. "Do you want to know the truth? This successful man promised me riches. He bought me jewelry with his wife's money." "Chloe, shut up!" Mark screamed. "And he also took out loans using their shared assets," she spat out. "He thought his wife would never find out. He took $20,000 from Chase Bank and another $15,000 from Wells Fargo and $8,000 from a quick loan. He spent it all on me." The room was silent. Even Eleanor hadn't known about that. Margaret, who had tried to be inconspicuous, rushed toward him. "Mark! Son! What is this woman saying? What loans? What inheritance?" "Mom, Now is not the time. Not the time. I mortgaged my mansion to give you money for the lawyer. And now what? How am I going to pay? Even his mother was now in debt. Margaret shrieked, lunging at Chloe. This is all your fault. You drove my son crazy. My fault? Chloe retorted. It was your son who groomed me. He told me his wife was a fool. Men separated them. What a disgrace, Mr. Budrow said firmly. After this circus, the only thing I'm going to do is raise Eleanor's salary. And this guy, he looked at Mark with contempt, should look for another job. Half an hour later, only the protagonists remained. Now what? Chloe asked. Do you have any money at all, Mark? Where from? He complained. I spent it all on the party and your gifts. And the loans? I don't know, Mark repeated. I don't know. Margaret sat with her face in her hands. And what am I going to tell Hayes? Then Chloe stood up. You know what? I'm leaving. You two are utterly useless. Mark, don't ever call me again. She paused at the door. Your wife is one badass woman. It's a shame I only met the real her today. She left. Mark, Margaret said softly, what if we go see Eleanor? Ask for forgiveness? Mark shook his head. It's too late, Mom. She will never forgive us. Then what are we going to do? I don't know, he repeated. I swear, I don't know. Meanwhile, Eleanor was in a taxi back to the brownstone. In her purse, she carried the titles to 2 properties and a trust fund. The driver, an older man, looked at her in the rear-view mirror. Beautiful night, isn't it? Yes, Eleanor said, smiling. Very beautiful. You could say it changed my life. 3 months later, Eleanor was in court. Mark looked 10 years older in a cheap suit. The judge, an elderly woman, reviewed the documents. Very well, she said. The court decides the following. The brownstone on Beacon Street is the separate premarital property of Mrs. Eleanor Hayes and is not subject to division. Mark panicked. Furthermore, the judge continued, it was proven that Mr. Mark Bishop concealed significant debts. A $20,000 loan, a $15,000 loan, and an $8,000 loan. The total debt is $43,000. Since the money was not used for family welfare, he shall be solely responsible for their repayment. Mark went even paler. The gavel strike marked the end. Leaving the courthouse, Eleanor felt a strange peace. Eleanor! Mark shouted. Wait! Forgive me. I was a selfish fool. Mark, she said calmly, I don't hold a grudge. We're just very different people. You wanted an easy life at others' expense. I am used to fighting for what is mine. Could we see each other as friends? No, Eleanor replied softly but firmly. I'm sorry, but no. It's better if we each go our own way. She turned and walked toward her car, a new, elegant Audi she had bought with part of the trust fund. Life continued. A month after the divorce, Mark lost his job. The video of the anniversary party went viral. His company's CEO no longer wanted to deal with the scandal. Finding a job was difficult. He ended up working as an Uber driver with his old Toyota. He now lived with his mother in her small one-bedroom apartment in Revere. Margaret had to sell her Chestnut Hill mansion to pay the debts. Don't you wish you had listened to me? She would say. It's too late, Mom, Mark would reply. And Chloe? She was more than fine. 2 months after the scandal, she married a 50-year-old entrepreneur. The wedding photo she uploaded showed her caption, Finally found true love. #happy, #new life. Mark saw those photos and let out a bitter smile. Eleanor lived a completely different life. She moved to her aunt's house in Nantucket. It was a spacious, light-filled home with a view of the ocean. She didn't want to be an accountant anymore. With the money she inherited, she opened a small publishing house specializing in translations. It was her lifelong dream. Eleanor, Mr. Budrow said when she resigned. "We don't want you to leave." "Thank you," she replied, "but I found what I'm truly passionate about." One evening, her friend Jess came to visit. "You look so content," she asked. "Do you feel avenged?" "You know," Eleanor replied thoughtfully, "I don't feel vengeance. I feel relief. That wasn't vengeance. I just defended my rights. The truth always wins, even if it takes time." "Do you regret those 25 years?" "No," Eleanor said, shaking her head. "Those 25 years taught me something invaluable, to only rely on myself and to value honesty above everything else." A year later, she received a letter from Mark. "Eleanor, I just want to say that I understand. You are the best thing that ever happened to me. I lost you because I was foolish and greedy. I don't ask for forgiveness. Be happy." Mark Eleanor read the letter and filed it away in a drawer. No anger, no sadness, just a memory. That night, she went out onto the terrace with a cup of coffee. Nantucket glittered with lights, music played in the distance, and the air smelled of the sea. She was free, financially independent, doing what she loved, and for the first time in many years, she felt truly happy.